Morning, folks. Beautiful, clear winter's day. The wind is blowing a gale. It's absolutely freezing here. I'm on Mount Alexandra Reserve in Mittagong. One of the high points, just sort of in the Mittagong-Welby area. Not the best days to be making videos underneath big tall eucalypts. But in a way, it's there's a part of it that's useful. A lot of material's getting blown down onto the ground. So that's one thing that's helpful. I'm just getting around to this guy. They don't grow in Sydney, but they do kick in here just north of Mittagong. Beautiful big tall trees. This is Eucalyptus smithii. It's a really interesting and really nice one. It's called the Ironbark Peppermint, and you can probably see why. It's got this really furrowed ironbark basal trunk, and it looks very similar to Eucalyptus smithii from a distance. And as you go up, a lot of the time these beautiful tall straightish trunks, you then get these bare branches. What we'd call smooth or bare branches up the top, which are very gum-like, and you do get ribbons hanging down as well. There's a hell of a lot of ribbon on the ground here. So check these out. You're getting these sort of viminalis-like ribbons at the bottom, and smooth branches up the top. Just check that one out. Really beautiful. I've got to try and keep the sun out of our way here. And it's just the bark. It's quite discernible a lot of the time, though. Just growing up the top of this sandstone country here, we've got Eucalyptus smithii as well. There's probably Eucalyptus smithii just about 20 metres away from me over here. So if I just take a walk over this way, right here, this is a Eucalyptus smithii. So very similar trunk. I'm pretty confident that one there is a Eucalyptus smithii. But you might be asking, well, Dan, what's the first obvious difference? Eucalyptus smithii has a very narrow canopy. It's generally a taller tree than smithii. Than smithii. It's a taller tree, and I can't demonstrate this as, you know, the best from this angle, but it's got a very narrow canopy. We're sort of in the realms of something like Eucalyptus radiata in terms of canopy width or leaf width, and something like, I'd say something like Eucalyptus cribra, narrow-leafed ironbark. It's got a really narrow canopy. A little bit weeping, but not overly weeping, but it is very narrow. That's one of the features to sort of put you in the right direction. The bark does look a little bit different. It's I'm just trying to get a bit that really helps me. It's sort of just this deeply furrowed bark. And just looks a little bit different to smithii once you start getting your eye in for it. And, you know, the Ironbark Peppermint, that's a really good name for it. You can get up onto that sandstone ledge. There's a beautiful branch just coming out there where I can easily access the foliage. So it's a bit like that video I made on Ori 80s. These are down in the gully sort of areas, and it's got a beautiful branch there going up onto that sandstone platform. So I'm just going to scarp her up there. Eucalyptus smithii, it likes a gully. It does like being in a sandstone gully. But it will also get to the higher ground. It'll get to the top of the sandstone areas as well, no problem at all. At Mount Gibraltar in Mittagong, or I should say Bowral, it's growing on the top of a sort of that microcyanite rocky landscape there, up the top of the Mount Gibraltar there. So it does like the high ground, but it also likes the lower sandstone creek lines in this part of the world. It's a New South Wales Victoria tree. New South Wales and Victoria. It goes through the eastern part of Victoria to sort of towards Melbourne, but it doesn't quite get there. And I think there's the most western patch in Victoria is a bit of a disjunct outlier, getting towards the east of Melbourne there. And then it's all through the eastern parts of Victoria. In New South Wales, the northernmost part is meant to be Eurandary, the Cowmung River. And I just camped on the Cowmung River recently. And I was looking at trees there just above the Cowmung River, the steep slopes. I thought they were Eucalyptus alata, which I think this guy tends to look like sometimes. But in hindsight, I think they were Eucalyptus smithii. Just on the high, steep slopes there above the Cowmung River, that's just near Eurandary there, west of Lake Burragarang. And they just come south from there, down the south coast and the southern tablelands. They don't get too far west. I think the westernmost occurrence is around Braidwood or somewhere like that. And they just go down into Victoria, in that eastern part of Victoria. So they don't get any further north than Sydney. Sort of I guess like in line with somewhere like Camden or Picton, that would be their northernmost limit. So once I get down here to Mittagong, I've got to start looking out for them. I think if you drive up Macquarie Pass from Albion Park to Robertson, you start to see them there as well as you go up the Macquarie Pass, that beautiful road. Just climbed up to the top, pretty easy. The car park's just over there, so it's great. Now I've come onto this sort of sandstone plateau here. Here's the smithii right here, growing on the plateau. So they do get onto the poor country. What I'm sort of just observing early on is there's not a lot of buds around, but there's plenty of fruit. So that's really good. We'll just start. Oh, I do have some buds here. There's just not a lot around. Just going to start with the foliage and just trying to demonstrate how narrow it is. If we had Eucalyptus smithii, you just expect fatter leaves than that. The leaves of both species can get to about 20 centimetres long. However, the width of smithii is meant to be 16 mil, and the width of seabori is meant to be about 38 mil, or up to say 35 mil, 40 mil. These guys are only 16 mil wide. The thing about smithii is it's called the Ironbark Peppermint. It's got a beautiful, strong peppermint smell like radiata. I've sort of tried to compare the smell of Eucalyptus alata to the smell of smithii. Smithii has a bit more of a chemical smell. It's not purely peppermint. Yeah, there's something there that's sort of in with the peppermint. It's a bit more sort of chemical smelling, but I don't think there's a lot of difference. And I keep saying this on my videos. I reckon a lot of other people's noses are a lot better than mine. But yeah, there's a nice smell there. The more I crush those leaves, the more sticky they're getting. They're getting a very sticky texture. I'll just get some ones that I haven't mangled. I don't know if the early morning bright sun's going to help here, but I might just keep it in the shade a bit. They're concolorous. They should be concolorous in the adult stage. That's how they're described anyway. And looking at the phone, it looks a bit discolorous there. With my naked eye, yeah, it looks a little bit discolorous there as well. So I don't know if discoloration and concoloration, as reported, is always completely concrete. I guess it can be a variable thing, but we would say that they're not sort of consistently strongly discolorous. They're either concolorous to slightly maybe discolorous, just slightly. That one there is pretty concolorous in the sunlight. So they are described as being concolorous on smithii. You can just see the upper bare branching. You can see the ribbons coming off. Seabori doesn't really throw ribbons like that. But you can see this gives you a much better indication of the bare, the smooth branching up the top. There's also Eucalyptus pipparita. down in that sort of gully as well. There's the Eucalyptus peppermint just over there. So it's a smithii, pepperita, seaburai, Eucalyptus agglomerata. There's a little bit of punctata around as well on these higher parts. That's the assemblage. The buds aren't easy to come by. I've just checked out a few trees and there doesn't seem to be a lot of bud, but there is a lot of fruit. However, this will probably do us for the buds. They're in 7s. They're in concrete 7s for smithii. And I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that, but there's one with 5, and you can probably imagine there was 2 more buds on that cluster. So we're in the 7 group. And when I find smithii buds, that's pretty typical. That sort of shape. That shorter operculum and sort of the longer hypanthium. That's typically what I associate for smithii. There's another one that wants to throw 5. I'm assuming a couple of 2 have snapped off, but it's just got that nice swirl of 6 and then that one terminal one in the middle. Not a very long peduncle, probably about, getting up to 10 mil there. With my naked eye, I'd say just short of 10 mil. So the peduncles don't seem to be obviously large. But they're an attractive bud. You can see how glossy they are. They've sort of got I'll get it into the sun, they've sort of got a gloss, seem to have a gloss on them, like they've been sort of varnished. From first glance, the fruit, where can I get it? Comes across like a bit of a red gum. It's got this really strongly raised disc on the top, which is sort of sometimes described as being trapezoidal. It's like a trapezoidal raised disc. And again, linking everything to everything. These are coming across to me as very red gum looking. But this tree's not a red gum, obviously not anything to do with a red gum. But you just get this strongly raised trapezoidal disc on the top. Like, look at that one. You could almost draw a trapezium around it and the valves. Very distinctive, and they pretty much always look like that. Sometimes you can just get 1 or 2 on the ground and a tree can not quite look like smithii, and they can be a bit confusing. But in the past, I reckon I've thought that the fruits of smithii look a little bit like the fruits of monifera, Eucalyptus monifera. That's another one we get around here, but that's got an obvious white trunk to it and normally won't get anywhere near as big in this part of the world. And if you just want to check the valves, there's always 3. There's always 3 valves on smithii. That's another one of its features. Reminded of this old TV show that used to be on in the 80s called Tripods, I think it was called. These 3-legged aliens that take over the planet. Used to be on in the afternoons when I was a kid. It sort of reminds me of that, just those 3 valves, that really consistent triangular shape there. So that's generally what you get with smithii. For me, it's falling in with that sort of red gum fruit. Don't forget, just a bit of revision. That's what seaburai look like. So I've got seaburai right here, and that's seaburai with that thickened disc. It's a very different fruit. So in some parts of the world here, you've definitely got seaburai and smithii hanging out together. You're just going to have to look out for that on the ground. Remember, seaburai, they're very generous with their fruit. They dump a lot, and normally you can find them pretty readily. Smithii, they don't tend to drop as many fruit. I sort of find them a bit harder to come by, but this tree here definitely has a lot. They're quite beautiful. The last thing about smithii I'd probably say is they can rock up in habitat a lot of the time down on the creek lines, and Eucalyptus alata will rock up at the same time. And I just find it very difficult sometimes to discern the two. If you can latch on to that ironbark trunk, But you do get Elata and smithii growing together. Remember Elata, it's got buds up into the 30 bracket. It's got like 15 to 30 buds in an umbellasta. The leaves are narrow, it'll have ribbons, they get really tall. Both trees get really tall. And when they grow together, it can be a real nightmare to sort of discern them. You got to look on the ground and see what fruit you get in the most. If you think you're getting mainly Elata fruit, which is small and they're in clusters of 15 to 30, and it just doesn't have quite the ironbark basal trunk that smithii has. It tends to have a bit more of a ribbony trunk. But I just get smithii and Elata together in some nice deep sandstone creek lines around here, and it can be really difficult. It can be really hard to accurately count your trees, and most of the time I'm just going on the chunks and what fruit is more prolific on the ground, because Eucalyptus Elata does drop a lot of fruit, which makes it helpful. But I've had plenty of plots where I've just seen a ton of Elata fruit on the ground, and then I keep looking around and I eventually see smithii fruit as well. When both trees are in their juvenile phase, they might be saplings up to 5 meters tall. I find it really, really difficult, really, really hard to tell what's what. I think I've picked up a difference in the oil glands in the leaves. If you look at the oil glands with a hand lens, they just seem to be larger and more translucent in Elata, and they seem to be denser, smaller, and less sort of translucent in smithii. But I'm not too sure at the moment whether that's a concrete feature. It's something I'm still studying. Adding to that, when you get saplings of Eucalyptus smithii and Eucalyptus Elata, when you look at the juvenile growth, both species put on these really obvious sprays of opposite juvenile growth, and they look very similar. They put on these opposite pairs of linear leaves, just sort of like Eucalyptus viminalis or Eucalyptus radiata. They've got that really lanceolate look to them. So in the juvenile phase, Elata and smithii, it's that juvenile growth is very, very similar and can be very hard to discern. Sometimes I just go on the smell of the leaves and those oil glands. I don't want to labour this too much, but I'm just back in the car park now. This here is Eucalyptus smithii. I've found the fruits at the base and the buds at the base, and I've looked at this tree before. That's a smithii there. And it's just got a slightly different canopy to Eucalyptus smithii, which is just over here. Can you believe this is the sort of challenges that get thrown up? This is smithii, this one here. And you just got to get your eye in for the canopy difference. That's a very wider canopy. I can see that the leaves are over 2 centimeters wide, and they'll glisten in the sunlight. Remember, they won't smell like peppermint. But when you look at the trunk of smithii, it's a very smithii looking chunk. So both trees are growing together. Hope I'm not overdoing it, folks, but I just wanted to liberate some more buds and just show you those sevens. I don't want to rob the tree too much, and I reckon I'll come back here one day to collect some resource material for teaching perhaps, but I just wanted to show you those buds. I just got another branch and you can see the sevens. Just doing this from the back of the car, just trying to give you a look at the juvenile foliage of smithii. I just got this off a very young epiculmic shoot. It just puts on these early, almost, yeah, pretty much opposite sprays of leaves for a couple of nodes, and they do look very radiata and elata-like. A little bit sort of bluey green in colour. They're a little bit discolorous in this juvenile phase. They're just a little bit discolorous, but mainly concolorous. But they just put on these opposite lanceolate pairs that, in the spirit of viminalis and radiata and elata, and they look very similar to elata. but just showing you that the juvenile foliage, it's not overly different to the adult, but they can put on these opposite sprays, just like that there. Opposite sprays for a long time, or maybe up to 5 nodes or something like that. So that's just an early epicormic shoot from a big tree. So the juvenile foliage is quite distinctive. Again, I didn't go into leaf texture. Yeah, they're sort of medium thickness. They're not overly thin. They're sort of a medium sort of texture. Not overly thick, not overly thin. There's a little bit of thickness there to the leaf. And overall, I reckon the leaves are green. They're just on the green side. The juveniles might be a little bit bluey green, just with a tint of blue in them. But the adult leaves, to me, they seem to be on the green side, maybe with a little tiny hint of blue, but to me they're green.